welcome to another episode of Sisters Adventures. We have a very special guest by the name of Tracy Gray. Tracy, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
There's so much to say about Tracy. She's the general partner at the 22 Fund. She's based in Los Angeles, California. She started her career as an engineer before being a venture capitalist. And she is a serious Buddhist, and she has such a serenity about her. I just love so much. And she is my hero, Shiro. So I want to say this on the record. Tracy Gray is the reason I am here today in BC. So it's true. It's true. Tracy Gray is a fellow Haas, fellow Berkeley Columbia alumna, an MBA program I went through after her. And I was looking for role models in BC. And I found Tracy. I said, this is it. This is who I want to be like when I grow up. Not only does she have the BC Fund, she also does a very serious philanthropic pursuit in supporting women and their growth. So Tracy Gray was a guest speaker at Haas at the Women's Conference one year. And I just needed some guidance in my life. And Tracy was on that panel spitting knowledge. So if you ever get to hear Tracy speak, just like get your notes out because it's going to be full of gems that you need in your life. And, I was trying to figure out my way. And so she mentioned some amazing ways to start. One of those Pipeline Angels. And for those of us who wasn't ready yet to start a fund, but, it was a way in. And because I saw her, I knew it was possible. So I just want to give you your violets and your roses now. Okay. Because you've been doing this for a little while. And so very proud of you and the work that you've done. But Tracy, you're here on the show. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm super happy to be here finally.
Listen, why do you do this work?
You mean the work I do to change systems or the work I do just in venture capital? My day job or my
Because
other
you
stuff?
are a Black woman in venture capital, you are changing systems.
Yeah.
It's not separate. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'm in it because I want to change the system. What was your question again?
Why? Why do you do that?
Oh, why do I do this? Okay, so there's two sides. If I just talk about my day-to-day, if I had my wish and I was like the white guys and they just had their day job and they got to have fun, I have what I call professional ADD. I get kind of bored pretty quickly, and I also am a lifelong learner. It's just kind of our Haas thing that I call lifelong learning.
Right.
And I just like learning about new things, and I like seeing new and different things. And I've never been able to be at like one job for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't now think I'm employable. Like if I ever came to you for a job, just shut the door in my face because I'm not a good employee. I know that. It's my own ego about I think I'm right and you're not, and I'm gonna keep trying till you get that I'm right. So when I discovered venture capital, I literally fell into it in 1999 through someone I worked with became a venture capitalist, and he hired me when I was like, "What are you doing?" And I was kind of criticizing his investments, saying these look like products, not companies. And he asked me to come in and instead of criticizing him from afar, come in and be an analyst associate. Yeah. And I just love being able to see all the different technologies. I'm using my technology background in a different way. I had what I didn't know was a natural acumen around business. I didn't know all the words and rhetoric that I know now, but I could still say the same thing, just not the words that everyone used. And I just loved helping people grow their companies. I just loved seeing someone's passion and I could help in some way. And it's always fun being able to pass out money, right, to people. So I did it because I just discovered it and loved it. But I did not love the lack of diversity when I was but back then I didn't see, as an analyst, you get all what used to be business plans. I haven't seen a business plan in I don't know how long. just decks, but you used to do full-on business plans. And I would read them all, and they were all white guys. I remember there was one half Latino, because I asked him because he had a last name that sounded that way. I was like, what are you? And I think before I came, they invested in one woman. But literally, we were throwing $2 million to dudes in the garage with an idea. One person, I remember, he had one business, and in the middle of the conversation, we were like, oh, why don't you do this? And we'll give you $2 million to do this. Didn't even have a business. And we just gave it. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why are we investing in all these white guys when you all say don't invest in a shrinking market? And white guys are a shrinking market. They literally are shrinking. Why are we investing in them when the growing market was women and people of color? So as an engineer, it didn't make any sense, but I loved it. So that moves me to the other part. Why I do this systems work is because since then, the numbers haven't changed. Oh, but what I like to say, yes, they have changed. They've gone down. On the number of women, people of color, especially women of color, especially Black women.
Yeah.
More of us are coming into systems, but we're getting less money on a percentage basis. So, and that is illogical and almost it's impossible if you take, our statistics class. Statistically, that's impossible with the numbers coming in and the amount of money. That's impossible to be unconscious bias. This is fully conscious. It's the only way it can happen. It's fully conscious. It's not like they're like, oh, I'm unconscious. I'm a racist unconsciously. No, you are very conscious about this. And so that's why, because it doesn't make sense in my engineer brain, right? If it's illogical and it's unjust, my mind explodes and I'm a fixer and I just think I can fix everything and I can't. And I'm a Taurus. I'm super stubborn, so I never let go. I'm like a dog like a pit bull with a bone, and, until I can fix it. So, this is why I do it. Two sides of me is one, I enjoy it. Two, I need to fix something.
So, let's talk about boldness, courageousness, being that person to speak the truth sayers and truth tellers. That's where I see you. We have a lot of voices in Venture, some that we need to mute or minimize and take some of that limelight. And if you don't follow Tracy Gray on LinkedIn, please do, because it will give you such joy. I mean, I just read your posts and I'm like, let me get some popcorn. I know. Some people are offended. Some people have been uprooted because the truth has been spoken. Where did you get that kind of tenacity from?
No, I don't. I mean, maybe it's because I'm the youngest child, and so when you're the youngest, your parents are like, oh, "I'm just going to sit back and smoke a cigarette while they grow up and let them do their thing." So I was free to try anything. I was also a gymnast. And so if you start with fear as a gymnast, you're going to hurt yourself. Literally, when you start saying, oh, I could get hurt, it's all mental, And so I think being in a sport, being in gymnastics, where I have to know where my body is at all time, and it's body, mind. You can't separate your mind from your body.
Yeah.
I just was kind of, I don't know if fearless is the word, but I don't want to say I'm fearless or courageous. It's just that I don't fear. I don't start with fear. So I'm not I was always a kid in the front of the room with my hand up, like literally. And if I wanted to be in the back room with my other friends, I still put my hand up. And so I was always the one, even in our, in Berkeley at Haas and Columbia, I would always sat in that front row, second to the front row. Because I need to be there and get all the information. So I just think I had no reason to be afraid of anything. I grew up safe. People let me do, if I look back, I don't know if my high school let me do what I want. They wanted me in track. I was like, why am I going to be in track? It's because I'm a Black person, right? They're like, go into track. And I was like, I don't like running. So why would I do track? I don't understand, so, but I think I was free to do what I wanted to do. I also, so that's one side. That's the, the nice thing to say. I also have literally no internal editor. I've tried, that's why I meditate and I try mindfulness a lot so that I can learn to respond instead of react, and like whatever's in my mind, I don't need to vomit up. But I literally stay there like, if you don't let me say what I want to say, or someone else doesn't say something, which is usually what's happening, I'm waiting for someone else to say it. I'm saying in my mind, Tracy, you don't have to say it. You don't have to say it. And then if they're ready to finish a meeting or finish something and no one says it, then I start. Like, because it has to be heard. I don't know what it is.
How do you, I mean, a lot of people can't do that or sit in, I've been in those meetings where it's like, is somebody going to call this person racist? Is somebody going to talk about the foul thing that came out their mouth that was offensive to half the people in this room? It's like, like that waiting, it's like building anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if I say it, I'm going to be that black girl, right? That always has a clap back, that always has to, like, it's,
Yeah.
like, I mean, maybe that's why you're independent in your independent world and run your own company.
Yes. Yes.
So,
That is why, because I've been in those spaces where, I mean, very few, I've never worked in corporate America, so I always knew I couldn't do that because the change couldn't happen fast enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've been in lots of rooms where I even when I worked for the mayor, I kind of said what I wanted to say. I just feel comfortable. I feel uncomfortable. I don't lie very well, even little white lies. I mean, just like, when I'm not telling the truth. I just gave it up. I couldn't keep track of lies. When you do little lies, couldn't keep track of them. So I'm just like, forget it. I feel it just feels so much lighter to be authentic. And another friend of mine said, you're the girl that says the emperor has no clothes. And I think that's what it is. It just bugs me when people say things that either aren't true or not their idea or is racist or sexist. And everybody else is thinking it.
Yeah.
And I just can't, like you said, it's like physical thing. Like, I'm literally going to vomit if it's going to come push it out before my brain could keep up. If I'm not able to say something. So, and I'm not afraid of the outcome.
Yeah.
If people don't like me, I have investors running away from me when they see me coming. Like, literally, I've seen people look around and then go down another hallway at a conference when they see me coming, which makes me then chase after them and just to say hi and not say anything. But, I just don't, what are they going to do with me? I mean, what hasn't been done. I just don't fear that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what advice would you give to aspiring woman of color GP who is like, I might want to do this? That seems really hard. The numbers aren't looking like there's no reason to do this if you're a rational person.
Yeah.
Like, GPs they don't start rich. I mean, like, you give up a lot to be a GP. Like, I think it's like, if you don't already have the money, good luck. Like, what?
And I didn't.
Are you saying you're not independently wealthy
No.
for this? You were an
No.
engineer.
Yeah, but I worked at a nonprofit and worked for the mayor for a while. You're not making any money there. It's really hard for me to I made money, but it wasn't satisfying if I couldn't make change at the same time as making money. And I'm at an age where back then you couldn't make change and make money. Now you actually can. There wasn't really impact investing. There wasn't what I'm doing now. Where they could see that the impact and returns there's no concessions for them. So, yeah.
I mean, let's talk about
what advice. You asked me a question about advice. I'm really bad at answering questions.
Yeah, you answered a question. I said that was.
Yeah. Well, around advice, I would say you do have to have a certain if it constitution is the word, you have to have, you can't take any of this personally.
Yeah.
I'm always like, this is business. I mean, even there's racism is in business, so then you can call it out because it's in business. It's systemic. But I don't take it personally, because if I take it personally, it's just going to hurt so much, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to get out of bed every day. So these are transactions, at least from on the fundraise when I'm raising money with our companies. I also investing in our companies is also the same thing. It's just the numbers. I say things to them that they don't want to hear, and I'm like, don't take it. This is not personal. Sometimes they'll come back and say, well, I'm personally offended. It's like, why are you, this is business. Don't be offended by something, a criticism of your business.
Yeah.
But I would say to women that women are better investors. So why wouldn't you do something that we're better at?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't start with fear. That's the only advice. Like, what advice did I give you that made you want to do? I still don't, I forget that you told me that,
Yeah.
you heard me speak, because I follow you and you're out there way more than I am, spreading wisdom. I like to, if I don't have to be around people, I'll be right here.
I'm I'm just providing cover for the people who are actually fundraising, because I have the privilege of not having to
Yeah.
raise money. So you are inspirational because, one, you exist, and at the time there was very few Black women in venture. Like, I just couldn't find them. Like, they were maybe finance, private equity.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, like MVC. I feel like J. Cole, no role models. Like, there was some no role models. And I wanted to talk to someone who I felt I could relate to. And you didn't know me. I mean, I was just stalking you because I was like, oh, look at the We Are Enough. No, I listened to TED Talk. You got TED Talk. You were putting out some gems and resources, and you were speaking the truth. And it was such a contrast to what I was even learning about or reading. Like, it wasn't what I was experiencing or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I respect people who speak what is actually happening. I worked in tech for 20 years as a Black woman and saw no representation and saw crazy stuff and crazy things happen. Like, like, I've lived that life. And I'm like, this can't be what everybody else is doing, because everybody else is having a good time here, right? Like, people are like leaving tech in numbers. Black people, people of color, like, we just can't sustain this industry in this field because it's so toxic. I mean, and Silicon Valley is toxic. Like, it is difficult, right? And I wanted to see someone talk about the difficulty in a way that also encouraged, let's open a door. Let's let more people in. Let's let women into this game, because we'll change it. Right? And, getting to know you just even more professionally in what you do, you have a very different thesis, right, about what you invest in. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
That makes it even harder, right? Because when I launched the fund right before the recession, like August 2008, and then September 2008 happened, and it was straight up pre-seed, seed, early stage tech fund, and just investing in women and people of color. I didn't make it complicated, because I always want to fill a gap. Right. I want to do something that other people aren't, not just because I want to be special, but because why copy what everybody else is doing? We won't grow the field. Yeah. And white men are allowed to do whatever strategy they want, like anything they want, they can raise money on. And we need to have the whole gambit of this asset class. So when I came back, I saw there was a gap in clean tech. It was a time when venture was leaving clean tech, because they blamed clean tech for the problems that they didn't know how to invest in hardware, but they blamed the sector, and they changed the name to climate tech. It's the same thing, but now they're like, know how to do it, so now they're right about it. Clean tech and climate tech. There was very little money going into it, especially for hardware manufacturing. And hardware and manufacturing are where the jobs are that pay really well in our country. Manufacturing is the foundation of our economy, and there's no money going into it. So these companies couldn't scale fast. People want venture investments so they could scale fast and beat their competition. That wasn't happening in hardware, and it wasn't happening in manufacturing. And I kept saying we can't software ourselves out of the climate emergency we're in. But how do you have venture-like growth for something that has a high capex? And the way we saw that is when you layer exporting or selling your product also internationally along with domestically, the exports allow manufacturers and climate hardware to have venture-like growth, because exporting companies are 25% more likely to make it through downturns, 37% higher revenues, and it's only because they're diversified. Because we're a consumer-based economy, the rest of the economies around the world are mainly export-based. So when we had our last recession, we were hit really hard because we needed to sell to each other, but no one had money. But if you had a company that also sold in other markets around the world, you weren't hit as hard because you had other places to sell. So that's our theory of change, is that if you invest in manufacturing, you help them export. One, they're more successful and it can have venture-like returns and growth. Two, their impact is more because that strategy causes a holistic impact. Because we only invest in women and people of color, so we hit race, gender, climate, and social economic development. We hit it all just with our strategy. So we call ourselves holistic investors instead of impact investors, because a lot of time impact is one vertical, and women and people of color, especially women of color, are hit with all of them at one time. How do we choose one impact to address when we're hit with all other ones at the same time?
And I'm glad we are co-investors in one of the same companies.
Which one is it?
Sienna Naturals.
Oh,
And I love it when that happens. So, like, I'm an angel, and Tracy's like, I don't deal with angels. So, angels and GPs are friends, right? Because we want to push our deals to you. And I love to push up to a Black woman. And, not that I had nothing to do with y'all, but I'm just happy to be on the cap table with you. And I love what you said about Sienna Naturals, hair care product, Anna Diop, Tracy Gray. And the other thing is, you talked about hair care is health, right? And like we're in a hair health crisis, particularly Black women, right? Because of all the damaging, toxic things we do. People are heading how it impacts our health, right? Like really severe outcomes. And so I love that your thesis is, it's very like, you're like, this is why this matters, right? You're like, I'm not investing in beauty product. I don't do beauty.
Well, look at me. I have like dreadlocks. I have, I have glasses on, so I don't have to put makeup on. I'm just not a beauty gal. You've seen me in person. Things I wear.
Listen, like, if you guys don't know, okay, Tracy, number one, looks 25. I won't even disclose. Like,
I disclose.
She does yoga every day. Like, listen, I want to look like Tracy right now. Like, please. Don't let it fool you, okay? She can walk a catwalk right now. Like, what? Even with her lip gloss, she might just have lip gloss. Like, you fine, girl. You got it.
We digress.
We do, as we always do.
I do love that every time you bring it, I act like I'm surprised every time, but I love that you're in Sienna. We need to have a longer conversation just about Sienna and how the angels that are in can help her and the company. Black women, we need a village. It takes a village to raise a company, right? It takes a village.
Right. And we can't write that check and walk away.
No.
Right.
Can happen. I'm finding a lot of non-women of color do walk away and just, spray and pray. But because our women of color have been left out of this system where, these guys learn this at birth. They know what a cap table is before they get out of college.
Right.
We're having to explain it because we're not in these systems, these ecosystems and networks. So we do need our companies do need a village to help them and support them.
And I think it takes just an extra layer of vulnerability, right? If you're a Black woman entrepreneur, if you're a Black woman GP, angel, like it takes hey girl, hey, I'm if me and Hannah had a hey girl, hey in the corner, hey girl, hey, like what's going on, right? Like, you need these hey girl, heys, right? Where just moments of honesty, right? And having that safe space, which I don't think she would have done that to a white male or in that comfort, right? Like it's things that you say to family that you don't tell everybody else,
Yeah.
That space too. And I'm glad that there's investors like yourself who say, hey, we're here for you, right?
You too. We have to be like, they need more help, not because they don't know or they're incompetent, which that's what the powers that be will make that leap, like, oh, they don't know enough. They just need more help because they didn't get all the help that these guys get on a daily basis. I mean, they get so much help. Then they act like they don't, which is like, this is the difference between men and women, period. Men act like they did it all by themselves, even though they've got help from all over the place. And we admit and give credit to those who have helped us. And hopefully most of us aren't afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
And we are more giving too. We don't expect, it's not transactional. We're not expecting something back for the help we give. I feel like, sometimes I have to promise something to these dudes to give it for them to help. But
yeah. Okay. Our time is running out as I know these talks go by really fast.
They do.
But we always like to end on, what would you tell your younger self?
That question always comes up and I always struggle. I don't know if I have something to tell my younger self because maybe we just don't realize how much we change and grow, and it's okay all the crap we do wrong.
Right.
Like, I don't want to change anything I did as a young person because I learned from it and I grew from it.
Right.
I guess that's my Buddhist side. You have to experience suffering to understand joy and appreciate the joy and the happiness. So I don't think there's probably nothing really deep. I mean, just beware of some of these white guys. Now, and I always want to tell people, I married a white guy, so I don't I just over, indexed on everything. And I wish I would have, as I want to tell women of any age now, just trust us. We are born with this gut and this instinct that men don't have because we give birth and we're caretakers. And there's things that we know, like we know our bodies better. There's just things we know better and not afraid to. And so we need to trust our guts and our instinct. And we're so many times we let people, it's like, whiplash, how many times when people tell us what we're doing wrong and then we change something to fit what they said and then someone will tell us the opposite. Right. And if we're just true to ourselves and always be true to yourself, it may not be perfect, but at least you enjoy it and you're not going to be ashamed of anything you did or feel bad about anything you did if you were being true to yourself. Yeah. So I don't know if I have anything to tell.
That's a word. Just trust us. I'm taking that. It might be my next t-shirt launch. Just trust us.
Seriously, I was involved with this group where we were helping a billionaire design what they're going to do with their money. And we said, you have to do it with some women and girls of color. And they didn't trust us. And I said, you know what? For the presentation, one slide. trust women of color. Just hold that up.
Yeah.
And that's the only slide we need. And that's what doesn't happen.
Right.
Trust women of color. They don't.
There's nothing else to say. Mic drop. I'm going to drop my virtual mic right now. Just trust us. Trust women of color. There's nothing else to say. Tracy Gray, it's been an honor. Well worth the wait. We love you. Thank you for your time and energy.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much. I always enjoy chatting. We never get to chat as much.
I know. I have some more running.
I know. I mean, being in California and in the same state, but it's like being in different countries.
I know. It's like all over the world for the next 3 months. Okay. That's all right. We'll find her. Well, thank you for giving us some of your time today.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Sisters with Ventures. If so, download and subscribe to the Alive Podcast Network, available on both iOS and Android, and select Sisters with Ventures to support this podcast each and every week.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the show. Please subscribe, tell a friend, check us out, let the world know. You can find out more information about this podcast at LishaBell.com. And remember, be an angel, invest.